Thank you, Dallas. So I get a chance to introduce the introducer of our talk. So can I have Kai Gaspari introduce the next speaker?
Hi, I'm Kai Gaspari, and I'm here to introduce my dad, Al Gaspari.
Way to go, Kai. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's perfect. That's perfect. All right. So this is my first time on stage as the talker at Unity. And to come in to one of my favorite songs, thank you so much, Dallas. That was really excellent. To get introduced by Kai. Should we call him back up for an encore speech? Thank you. But it's been, Unity's been such an impact on my life. And, so on my Facebook page, I refer to myself as an unaffiliated dudist who attends a Unity community. And I'm really excited here to be up on stage because this the rug really pulls the stage together in a really nice way. But I get to explain what exactly that means, because I get to tell a little bit of story about me and like where I've come from and what's informed me. So everything on stage is intentional and to think about what it's going. But I'll start with this cup, my Coach Al mug from the Blue Jays this year, 2026. And thank you very much. Blue Jays had a tough season. We started off we had some rough games. And the kids, so my kid plays on 2 teams for baseball, and we see some Bombers out here, but he plays on a very competitive team where, it's every kid is there, like really locked in, and they play like very high level competition. And then Little League can differ, but it's the same kids. And so one of my most things is like, just gotta learn how to pay attention. You gotta learn how to focus. And life is about how to focus at the right time. So you're teaching this. So, the little Blue Jays, we started a little rough, but we finished really strong and ended up losing on, we had 2 great games. We got walked off on one night in the 6th inning. It was a rough one, Kai, right? But you learn a lot from the rough ones, and Fonzie knows that that's where you get your lessons in life, when you have your failures and it leads to intentionality. So as I talk about intentionality, I'm going to first talk about how your life is influenced by things that you have no control over. So 64 years ago, this man who is with my mom, Gladys, and this is William Aloysius Feely, and this was my mom's dad. And you can kind of see in the face, how it has my face, and he had his struggles in life. He had 7 kids. He battled with addiction, and he had turned his life around before he passed away in his 40s. From something that should be able to be healed at this day. It was an aneurysm in his heart, and he died in the hospital over 3 days, and his kids had to go visit him, like as he was dying slowly. It's something that should be healed today, based on modern science, modern medicine, but it still is something that my family deals with. My Uncle Bob, unfortunately, also passed from a similar heart condition. So that's something that always informs me, because I'm now approaching my 50th birthday. But it also, as I've been thinking about going for this talk and what I'm going to cover, I think about how it impacts the woman who influenced me the most right from the start, not Sarah, but my mom. So my mom was 7 years old in Philadelphia. She went to a Catholic school, Catholic family. My mom was very Catholic. Everything was shame. I just remember that very much growing up. Every thought was shame, and so growing up. But this poor little girl, I think back to her in 7. So Kai's just turned 11, Fonzie's 15. So, this was a while ago. Her father passed away, And the next week at school, she goes right back to school. Because it's the 60s. They didn't have any services. They didn't have any, counselors or, other things. Her mom was now a single mother. They were thrust into poverty. And she went back to school. And she told me a story about the nun who came in on that Monday, pulled her out of class, and was like, "Oh, your dad just died. Let's talk about it." So she pulled her out of class and said, something along the lines of, when I have times of struggle, I pray the rosary. And I think about this woman often. She probably got a lot of comfort out of praying the rosary. She probably didn't know anything different from her experience. She was a Catholic nun in Philadelphia. That's what she did when you had grief. But to that 7-year-old who had just lost her father, she was the 6th of 7 children. This was the ultimate betrayal. It was offensive. And I can still see it in my mom's. I can still see the rage in her that she felt as a 7-year-old at this church who was telling her, "Oh, don't worry about it, just pray on it." And that shaped a lot of my life. And that is something that has influenced me more than I realized, because it influenced her. And she brought me into this world and then trained me and coached me my whole life. Still coaches me today. Hi, Mom. I think she's watching today, as well as a lot of my friends and family in Philadelphia, Ohio, Virginia, Rome, and around the world. So thanks for joining us today. So as I think about myself as a character in other people's story, I think about how I influence my kids and how my kids influence me and how my life has influenced me. On my dad's side of the family, my grandmother was a war bride. My grandfather was born, he was an Italian-American, born in the U.S., served in the army, and then went to Rome and met my grandmother and brought back this 16-year-old from Rome who came to America with only a cookbook. And this tenacious woman, Ornella, she influenced me my whole life. That's a story for a whole nother day, though, because that family takes a long time to tell those stories, because it's an Italian-Roman family. There's a lot of energy there, a lot of energy. We got kicked out of the bar after my grandmother's funeral, which was not the first time, so it was good times. But all of these things shape me. All of these characters have shaped me. So what I want to talk about next is how I got here to Unity. So it was a magical story full of destiny. Sarah was driving down the street to go to the library when it used to be at the Hangars with Fonzie, who was 3 or 4. Kai hadn't been born yet. And she saw the sign out front for this church. She's like, "Oh, let's go check this out." So that's how we got to Unity. Magical. But when we started coming, it was like, whoa, what is this place? Because for those of you who are watching online, we're in the Hamilton Air Force Base in Marin County, California. So the bay's right over there, where they used to have a runway where bombers would take off. We have the Bombers, Kai. That's how you got the name the Bombers. This was like an airfield on the bay. So this church was built by people in the Air Force, like designing, thinking about what's the best place to put a church? What's the best direction? What's the best orientation? How do we get the light in best through that beautiful stained glass window up above us? And here we are. So when I came into Unity, it was like, wow, this place is amazing. We're pretty new to Marin County. We're pretty new to the church, and we were just thinking about something for our father. And then we took new member class. So I see Dr. Lynn Forsey. She was in the new member class with us. We have Blue, Lee and Alan Young, who are watching from Hawaii. That's their dog. They took the new member class for it with us. And the new member class introduced us to a book. So you'll see on stage I have some books. So we have 50% off for Father's Day. Talk to Christine in the back for the books. But this book is the 5 principles. It's not the most well-written book, I'll just be honest. It's good, but the ideas are really important. And I drew them out here because there's 5 principles that you learn in new member class, and it was really transformational to me. And I have a little image. So the first principle is that God is everything. And this was something that not only worked for me from a spiritual, this works logically to me. The universe is all that we know. God is the universe. God is everything. Makes sense. That works. The second thing is, I am part of everything, so therefore, I am part of God. That's really interesting. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are not from the Unity tradition. It's like, whoa, you think you're God? It's like, no. Part of God, because God is everything, and I'm part of everything. We're all made of stars. We're all made of the universe. We're all made of all that we know. And this then leads you to the next, which is your thoughts create your reality. And this is where it got really interesting, because not being from a spiritual tradition, I was very in tune, and I wanted to really explore this. So I was like, if my thoughts create reality, I have a lot of thoughts, a lot of crazy thoughts. And then it's like, if my thoughts create reality, I can just imagine winning the lottery or doing this and winning. And it was like, why does that make sense? And so one of the things I came to was a story that, how do I prove that, because your thoughts are, when you say thoughts create reality, it's what you truly know. It's not what you tell yourself. It's not the story that you tell yourself. What you fully believe, that you know internally. So for me, how did I get to that realization? I would love to play baseball for the Philadelphia Phillies. I would love to play second base for the Philadelphia Phillies. Chase Utley is one of my favorite players. He was, that team that went to the World Series in 2008-9 was just phenomenal. So I'm just going to will myself playing second base for the Philadelphia Phillies and make it happen. Still got a few years on it. But my body knows that that'll never happen. I'm left-handed. So those of you who know baseball, you can't be a second baseman and play left-handed. So then the third is prayer lines. So, this is the importance of, I never really prayed, and I didn't really understand. I always had this picture of the little kid leaning on the bed with the hands up, and usually my prayers were around things like, oh, I hope my baseball team wins, or I hope I pass that test I didn't study for, or I hope my mom doesn't find out about the things that I did that I wasn't supposed to. And, but that's not what prayer is. Prayer is meditation. So before service, we do a 20-minute meditation. So I was in here meditating, and we talked about, knowing and just observing everything around you. And what this has taught me in true meditation, because true meditation is the basis of mindfulness. And mindfulness is the basis of paying attention and being able to focus. And that's what I talk, when I say seeing the current state, it's being a data collection hub, where you're not thinking about what's happening, you're just observing what's happening. So yesterday, we were doing a project on our house. And so me and Sarah were peeling some paint, listening to Fonzie's playlist. And so I picked the song because both my kids, when they were born in the hospital, we played Bruce Springsteen. Just because I wanted them, the first music that they heard, I wanted to make sure. And it's worked out because Fonzie has some great taste in music, and so does Kai. So we're in the backyard and working on the paint, and finally it's getting hot, and I go down because Dr. Cindy Acker was being honored at the church down the street, and so I went down to try and catch the barbecue, but we missed that. So I went to Monk's, so I see Brad, went to Monk's and had a couple beers, just because I was hot and tired. And I came back and I was taking a nap in the yard, and I was about to, I was really meditating and laying there. And I got fully into my brain, where I was just observing everything. And I could hear the pool down the street. And I could hear the party in the backyard over there. And I was just laying there, just feeling the most blissful that I've ever, those of you that meditate, you can get to that point of just blissfulness, and you're just hearing. And I was just hearing and just observing, and I just had this wall of sound around me, and I could see the whole community around me perfectly. And that's what prayer starts with, because you have to be just fully aware of the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the last is you're an expression of God. You got to act. You got to take all these things and you got to act on them. And that's where I'm going to transition to next, because action is something that has driven me. As I said, my on both sides of the family, my grandmother was Roman, so I was the baby. I was the male in the Roman family, so everything was revolved around us males, and there was 10 of us. There was all male cousins, and but she would not sit down at the table when we were eating. She would stand behind us, and if your plate got a little less than full, she would scoop some food on you. And this was, you deal with. But she'd also provide you really good feedback. Say, "Oh, Alfred, your face looks a little fat." "Okay, thank you, Grandma." It's like, I'll work on that. But she loved you. She provided a lot of support and a lot of attention, and really pushed you on there. Then for my mom, and I hope she doesn't mind me telling this story, but I was in college, and I had applied for a job, and I went to the job, but I caught a cold right before, and I didn't perform well on the interview. So I called my mom, a couple days afterwards when I found out. I was so bummed about not getting this job. I was like, it wasn't fair. I didn't feel well. I didn't perform well in the interview. They should have had me come back. She's like, you know what? You got to power through it. Doesn't matter if you have a cold or not. You had to get ready for that interview, and you didn't do it. And I was like, and it took me from this place of wallowing and inaction to a place of I guess I'm in control of my actions. I guess I'm in control of my life, and I have to be intentional about the choices that I make and what I'm going to do with my life. So as we go on, Unity in Marin is an amazing place, and now I'm going to talk about the future, because about 3 years ago, I told Deanne and Sarah that I was going to do an experiment with, this was when generative AI came out. So much of what Unity teaches and what we practice and what I've known to be real in our life is that you create the world with thoughts. And I won't spend a lot of time talking about generative AI, but it is a machine. It does a search function and computations, and then relays back based on what it thinks humans are. But as it does that, it's almost a reflection of you. So it allows you to connect. It also, for somebody like me, who spent the first part of his career in accounting, I used to do QuickBooks for organizations, and I used to do mortgage properties and things like that. It's allowed me to do some things that I couldn't have done before having this assistant that was going on. So in the past couple of years, we bought our house, and we did it all we didn't have any paid professional services. I am an accountant, so I was able to do that, but we were able to review the transaction. It was a friendly transaction with our friend Dave, and it worked out great. So now we're homeowners. I went and started coaching at the high school baseball program in Terra Linda. So I'm not I like baseball. I was never good at it growing up. I never made my school teams. But I have 2 kids who are really interested in baseball and really good at it. And I've coached a lot of games, and now I've watched 10,000 hours plus of baseball games and observed what works and what doesn't work. But I show up to meet the baseball coach at the high school, and he spends the first meeting telling me how much he hates Little League dads. I'm like, good to see you too. But I kept going. I stood in. I did fine, and now have a nonprofit. So we started a nonprofit to support the baseball program, because one of the things that we see, we love travel sports, but the community aspect of travel sports is missing. So, there's families that can do it, they can swing the travel, the cost, the time commitment and everything, but there's a lot of families that can't. And as you think about what kids are doing today, It's a different growing up. My kids would not recognize the world that my mom grew up in. And that's a good thing. Because we've grown, we've changed. But there's other changes that have happened where we've become dependent on things. We don't have that, it's not, people talk about where it's like, hey, it's summer, you leave the house, first light, and you come back when the dinner bell rings. That's really not what kids are doing these days. And so we need to create more opportunities for our kids in our local communities to play sports, to do activities, to do things. And so I'm really excited about the Terra Linda Community Baseball Academy because that's what's going to help with the Terra Linda baseball team. But I'm also excited about Sarah, who has been able to take on the youth and family ministry role here at Unity because this is an amazing coordinator. So she's married to somebody who has lots of ideas, and she loves all of my ideas at all times. Funny story, so I tape my mouth shut at night, and Sarah has been advocating for putting the mouth tape on earlier and earlier, like usually right when I get home early in the day. And she puts it on really tight, and I had to sneeze, and so I have a little blood blister here on my lip because she puts it on really tight. Sorry. But so one of the things we were going to do, and we were going to have one of Fonzie's classmates, but so you see Fonzie and Jaden back here, and then Lonnie, who's watching online, is a musician at Novato High School. So we've talked, and I know this came up at the visioning circles, but like Battle of the Bands here at Unity, like getting some youth around here for music, really embracing our musical culture here. This place, I don't know if, I heard a rumor that our soundboard was funded by Carlos Santana's wife. I don't know if that's true or not, but apparently she used to be a member at the top of it, So we have music in our community, and we need to embrace it because it's a wonderful place. We have the recording, we can do concerts, we can do events, and the high school kids can have little get-togethers, and it brings people into the church. Because this is one of the most wonderful spots in all of Marin. Then we're going to do activities. So is Wendy here? There she is. But Wendy, I've committed to Wendy that we're going to set up a time to go to a baseball game. And kids like Fonzie and Kai and Jaden, they're going to be the ushers. And we're going to sign up. We're going to go to either Pacifics or Sonoma Stompers, and then maybe to the Giants. But let's start going to these events. Deanne's a huge sports fan. We can go watch some Valkyries and other teams. Let's get these events and start, getting the kids engaged, give them tasks, teach them how the world works, help them get to a point where when I am ready to retire, I have somebody to take care of me. And then, it's concerts, and there's people all around us. So my friend Charlie is watching online from Virginia, and I know he and his family are thinking about a trip out to visit California, because we live in the most wonderful place, and there's wonderful concerts. But how do we connect to those people who are coming to California and coming on vacation? So another friend, Dave, the Dave's B Sharps are playing July 24th at Brewster's in Petaluma. So that could be another event to go in and check out some of the great music that's around here. So all these things as we're doing, as we're getting set up as a community, we start to build the infrastructure. And then we start tasking the kids to do these things. Because it's not just that we're setting up events, we're teaching them how to do things, how to get things done in this world, how to set up a legal entity, how to set up a new business, how to create jobs, how to build the future. This is what we can do here at Unity, and this is what we have the power to, and we almost have, we're called to it. Our spiritual, if we really listen to what we're talking about here, our spiritual traditions call us to do this. And we have to think about this as a community. So I'm excited for what's next. Sarah's got all this under control. You can ask her for any questions or anything like that. And I, digress. But as I wrap up, the first thing I want to say is whoever planned Father's Day, kudos. Giving mothers the earlier one, but then having the opportunity of having the longest day of the year Very smart, very smart. You get to do that, but is my approach to life, my approach to parenting is based on the do as I say, not as I did. And one of my biggest goals is that my boys don't put Sarah through what I put my mom through. So I'm always trying to teach them. And as I wrap up, I want to go to something that, this was a book that it's called This I Believe by Edward R. Murrow. So remember, this was a radio program in the 50s and 60s, and then it came back when me and Sarah were first dating in 2007 and 8, and they had a radio show. So I went one Christmas, I bought the original book from the 50s, and I wrote a little poem, Sarah, and I'm going to end with reading this because this is a lesson to Fonzie and Kai and all the little kids out there on how to be, when you find someone special, lock in and make it happen. Okay. Sarah, I believe in the good life. I believe in Saturday mornings at the farmer's market, Sunday afternoon naps, and Rummy Cube after dinner. I believe in the power of us, that life will be sweeter, richer, and fuller together. I believe in adventure. Together we will explore the world ourselves. We will explore the world, ourselves, and the possible. I look forward to every day with you and know that the next 50 years will be as magical as the last years. That was many years, 18 years ago now. And, I still revisit that every day because you got to celebrate what's good in your life, and you got to be there for the people, and you got to think about what role you play in people's stories, because that's the measure of a man, the measure of a father. When people say, he helped, he made a difference, and then you guys are going to be the ones who do the exciting things, and you're going to invite me places. And I'll be happy. So. Thank you. And I just want to end with, one more thing. Sorry, and I told Gabe I was going to mention this, but for those of you online, if you are interested in what you heard, or if this is your first time here, think about a recurring donation. Because as we say, where do you spend your time, where do you spend your money? That's where you put your energy towards. So challenge yourself. Put $5 a month in. See how it goes. Put it on recurring, and then make a commitment to watch once a month. That's worth $5. Because this is the commitment in yourself. You will get a lot more out of it. So think about this, what you can do, whether it's this community or another's community. Think about what you can do to make the world a better place. Thank you.